Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrating the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! Welcome, everybody, to yet another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. I'm Blade Daly, and I'm happy to be here. And instead of being joined by the greatest Canadian pro wrestling podcaster in the history of pro wrestling podcasts, instead of the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, I am joined by the greatest Floridian podcaster in the history of pro wrestling podcasts, Antione Raphael. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I am great, Blade. I am great. And for all those Joshi fans, I'm one of them too.
Yeah.
I will be her Mr. Perfect to her Bret Hart, for those who get that reference.
There you go. There you go. I do get that reference, and I like it. I'm sure Kurt lived in Florida at some point too, right? I mean,
he did.
How you doing, Antoine? I mean, what's new? What's the haps? What's the graps? What's the haps with the graps?
I mean, it was a rough day today at the job, my government job. Doing well in life. Working on a few things behind the scenes that I'm hoping to see come to fruition, like in the next 6 months. So more on that soon. But yes, especially when it comes to my poetry and MrRaphael.com. It will be launching very soon.
No, I know you've been working on it for a while, so I'm stoked to see this come to fruition. For me, just doing the thing, producing a couple podcasts a week. We got a lot going on over at sickosclub.com. Make sure you go check out sickosclub.com, and don't just check out the website where all the great writing and podcasts and contributor columns and all this other stuff is. Don't just go there. No. Go to sickosclub.com/merch and look at this badass merch we got, because it is designed by some quality people. And by that, I mean Neon Ghost and Brett Michelle. And I am rocking a Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out t-shirt right now. And having seen it in person, you should definitely get one for yourself. These look awesome. Logo designed by Brett Michelle.
Yes, you should. As a card carrying, not only am I a member, I am also a client, but I'm a member. Yeah. So, yes. So I'm not wearing mine right now, but
it's okay.
For life. Please check us out.
You're looking sleek. This is a non-video podcast, so people can't see how sleek Antoine's looking right now, but trust me, sleek. Okay, Antoine, got to do some house business before we dive in this week. Last week, Joshi and I were talking about our confusion and some frustration with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor last year at times had like 2, 3, sometimes even like 4 women's matches. It felt like it was kind of dominated by women. And that has really tapered off recently. And most of the women's matches are kind of squashes, and that's about it. And this week, which was, I have to admit, this week's episode was taped before our episode was taped last week. We were complaining about the lack of women, and there was 3 women's matches, including Athena and La Catalina, which was a badass match. I really liked that match. What'd you think?
I actually was able to piece this together because I am an avid Stardom watcher. And after I saw it, it confused me because I was like, I just saw her on Stardom just a couple of days ago.
La Catalina.
And there is no absolute way she made it all the way over there and in the taping schedule. And so I was kind of was like, aha, the puzzle came together.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked it because there was a time where I would go there to watch my women's wrestling. I really would.
Right.
Nowhere else. It was a weird Jekyll and Hyde sort of situation. AEW didn't have enough. Ring of Honor had plenty. And I don't know. I thought it was an excellent match. I've seen 3 matches from her now.
Mm-hmm.
La Catalina, and she's amazing.
She's really good.
Yes. And I don't know if you noticed it, but like there was a lot of people behind Athena, crowd-wise.
Yes.
And they were very much invested. So I enjoyed not only that, I enjoyed the build later on when she was talking to Diamante.
Yeah.
I had to actually stop and rewound the show during a meeting. Don't tell nobody. And play it again because I was like, did she say she wants to be a minion? What?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. So I apologize, but
whatever.
I saw a redemption like immediately. So I'm glad they caught it before they realized it was an issue, but maybe they can do something with their taping schedule a little bit better. Not confuse people.
Yeah. I think they've just ROH is just something they're still figuring out what they want it to be, and they just haven't fully realized it yet. I think they're like, hey, we're going for a TV deal, put the belt on Jericho, blah, 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 blah. Let's do this. And then they're like, nah, we're just going to be a super indie and we're going to make it the landing spot for our partner wrestlers. People from New Japan, people from CMLL, people from Stardom are going to come in and wrestle the champions like Commander and Athena. You know what? If they want to do the super indie thing, that's fine with me. It's just, I would like to know what the hell to expect from Ring of Honor, because for any complaints I may have lodged against Ring of Honor, I have subscribed to it since the day I could. So I have supported Ring of Honor all the way through. Even when I don't watch weekly, I have supported it. So you put Athena in a match with anybody, it's going to be good. And you can't be this good at being a evil bastard like Athena is and not have the crowd eventually cheer you. I think I know where this is going for Athena, and I'm very excited to talk about it, which we will just a little later. The other thing that we talked about last week was that aside from Athena, Commander had been on the show in the crowd, kind of watching people wrestle. But aside from that, they really didn't have a lot of their champions on the show. And this week, the Sons of Texas defended the tag titles on the show.
Something I very well saw last week as well and commented about, and then here we are.
Yeah. And that was a really that was a fine match. That was fun enough, And then and they're building this kind of feud with MXM, who I'm really hopeful will take those belts off them soon.
Me as well.
MXM or Gates of Agony, man, they are too good not to be doing stuff with. Like, Gates of Agony could be your road warriors for this day and age if you did it right. Just like monsters, who just tear through people. Like, how awesome would it be to see Gates of Agony versus the Hurt Syndicate? Oh my God.
Oh,
that would be just insane violence. The other thing was Chris Jericho actually appeared on Ring of Honor. Now, a lot of people don't like seeing Jericho these days, but he is the Ring of Honor champion. My boy Bandito teamed with his lil bro, Gravity, the Bandit Bros, as I called them. I believe they fought the Infantry, and they kind of snuck a win over the Infantry, which I wasn't a huge fan of that because I don't think thrown together teams should be beating established teams myself. Gravity could take the pin, like who cares? But after the match, the Learning Tree beat the crap out of Bandito and Gravity, and then appeared to injure Gravity. So it's making things between Bandito and Jericho more personal. They're obviously going to have a rematch. Bandito better win, you fuckers. He better win. That's all I got to say.
I'm going to second all of it. I don't know. I would say I would love to see a Gates of Agony versus the Hurt Signatives, I should say. At some point down the line, I would love it. One of the biggest things I saw was just like everybody else, where's the tag teams?
Right.
Where were the Texas boys? Unfortunately, I think MXM would be a great addition, and then there they were.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if it was their taping schedule, but it's something that you had questions about, and they came with the answers immediately.
Yeah.
So I do give them that. But one of the things I will say, as much as we can say about Athena, she is a godsend, but it's still sometimes a problem of knowing the direction of Ring of Honor as a whole. Mm-hmm. So I hope this isn't a one-off. And I hope Bandito wins. There has to be no other ending.
Right. Well, I don't think they would be doing another match if he wasn't going to win. What's the point at this point, of having another match and then having Jericho beat him again? Like, he's beaten him twice, He beat him once before he got injured. That was like his introduction to ROH or to AEW. And then he beat him recently. And, I think the plan is to have Bandito win, but they've got to stop. They just absolutely cannot have Jericho beat him again, because Bandito's dead in the water if you beat him again, I think.
And so is Ring of Honor. Let's be real.
Let's be real. Yeah. So, okay. So we've addressed Ring of Honor. They did a great job addressing some of the stuff we brought up last week. Glad to see that they're conscious of these things too. Well done all around. Watch Ring of Honor. It was a really fun show this week. Best match by far is Athena versus La Catalina.
I agree.
Just a really fun show. Next thing. Antoine. There is some discussion going around because AEW has let some contracts expire. There are some people who are leaving the fold. Layla Hirsch was the first one that seemed to come to people's attention. And today it's been announced that Dave Meltzer is saying that Abaddon and Nick Comoroto are both expected to leave as well. I definitely seen some reactions about Layla. That one hurt me a little bit because I think she has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And I've seen some big reactions today about Abaddon. How do you feel about it?
I really feel like Layla was, believe it or not, the most surprising of the ones for me. Because I saw she was really good in Ring of Honor. Her series with Red Velvet was amazing. I liked the rivalry. I liked the rivalry and the respect. I thought she had a place no matter what. Nick Comoroto, it seems AEW, it's almost that time of the year. It's summertime, so everybody's, I'd hate to say it, they're making some hard, tough decisions. But most of it we saw coming, I would like to think. Ricky Starks, for example.
Right.
In my opinion, I wish him well and success. And he's very much a WWE style wrestler, and he's going to be great at it. You wish people well. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad sign for the company as a whole.
Yeah, I don't take it as a bad sign at all, because they're making more money now than when they signed these people in the first place, right? And
I wish them so much well. Layla is not going to have a problem. None of them are going to have a problem. I could see her. You mentioned it earlier when we were just chatting. She would be a great fit in TNA. Yeah.
Yeah, Layla, Abaddon, both of them would be a great fit in TNA. TNA's had success with Rosemary, is a character that Abaddon does remind me of a little bit.
Yes, they do a lot of more out of bounds, stretch the imagination type of.
Right.
They take those chances, and she would fit perfectly right there and actually be seen on a regular basis, and not when it's just Halloween.
Right. She's, and she wasn't super experienced when she started with AEW. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, she's been paid pretty well to learn how to wrestle and paid pretty well to develop her gimmick and develop her character. And she improved a lot. So to me, none of these people are being used super regularly. Diamante and Layla Hirsch had an incredible lights out match or whatever that was, the no DQ match at one of the Ring of Honor pay-per-views. One of the better matches.
She's had a good stretch of rivalries because that was right before she started this one with Rev. So she was kind of on a roll.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like Layla a lot. I would say I'm the most personally moved by her leaving, but I will say this. If you listen to this podcast, you know we call out AEW when we feel like they're doing something bad or in the wrong about something. But I got to say, during the pandemic, while the other place is mass releasing people who can't get work elsewhere, unless AEW picks them up, right? AEW was signing tons of people. They were giving indie workers jobs on Dark and elsewhere just to put paychecks in people's bank accounts, and help people come along. And some of those people, like Ricky Starks, some of those people like Eddie Kingston, ended up sticking around. Some didn't, but it's okay. But the landscape is wide open again. They have a roster that still reflects this kind of pandemic era mentality that they don't need anymore. And it's honestly, I care a lot less about how they book Ring of Honor if there aren't so many unused people just sitting around. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I think a lot of times when I watch Ring of Honor, like right now, I'd be like, why the fuck isn't Top Flight on Ring of Honor? Why isn't, blah, 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 blah? Because they're not in the story in AEW, so why don't you use them for something, right?
And the thing is, I believe some people may agree, some people don't. We have fond memories of when we were a kid, but I do believe we're living in a wrestling golden era where talent nowadays, people like Layla are already being recognized and will have a job somewhere very quickly. Wrestling is hot right now. It's time for AEW to probably work on getting a little bit smaller and doing what they have to do. But it's not like any of the ones that were released are not going to find the work that they need, and I hope that they do.
Right. There's jobs all over the U.S. There's jobs all over Europe. There's jobs all over Japan. There's jobs everywhere right now in wrestling.
I love to see her in Stardom.
And if you've been on TV in the United States on national television like a Layla Hirsch or even Nick Camarado or Abaddon, there's a demand for people like that on the indies. So you can't tell me GCW or TNA or Maple Leaf Pro or these other promotions or Mexico, CMLL or somebody else isn't going to have a need for people like that. So I think, go raise your name value, come back a bigger star and make a bunch of fucking money. That's the way I look at it. And I hope they all do.
That's the point.
It is. But we're about to get to the point because Antoine, after we come back and this beautiful music hits the people's ears, we are talking all about what could very well be the pay-per-view of the decade. We are previewing and predicting every match announced as of Friday afternoon from Revolution, AEW Revolution. Folks, when we come back, that's what we're doing. Whoop, whoop.
Yes.
All right. We're back. We're back. Okay. AEW Revolution. Antoine, before we even dive into it, just the whole card, what's your thoughts? Like just your general feeling about the show.
I am not going to lie. I really thought at first the way that it was being haphazardly put together was being haphazardly put together. And it really was not. I'm actually really excited about this. I really am. And don't forget, people, it actually premieres the night of daylight savings time. So you got to put your clocks forward.
Yeah.
So get ready for a long night.
You're going to be tired on Monday, especially if you're on the East Coast like Antoine. In the home base of AEW in Jacksonville, Florida. I know. You got it in you. You got it in you. But basically 2-3 weeks ago, I knew we were getting Copley. I knew we were getting Moxley and Copeland, but I wasn't super excited about that. Let's talk about that
would
first.
Be a weird child. Copley would be a weird name for a child. You know, if you,
it would be.
Combine the two.
It would be. It would be. Jadam Copley. But yeah, so, 2-3 weeks ago, Revolution didn't look like it looks right now. Okay. I mean, there was a lot of things that were kind of being hinted at that hadn't been officially booked. And then every Wednesday and Saturday, it just feels like something huge gets announced for this show. In my opinion, I think this show has the most marquee matches that I can ever remember an AEW pay-per-view having, where it's just on paper looks incredible.
And you make your matches important by making them feel important.
Right.
And that is like the key, the secret sauce, as they call it.
Well, the pre-show is going to feature a match with Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and renowned indie legend Big Boom AJ versus Johnny TV and MXM Collection. I think this is going to be an entertaining match. These guys, Johnny TV and MXM Collection, are hilarious together. They are idiots. They are scoundrels. They are dopes of the highest order. I don't have any negative feelings about the Costco guys being involved, as long as it's minimal and it's not like for a title, or it's not like, it doesn't make the wrestlers look stupid by having them in there. That's my problems with wrestler cameos, is when they're getting main events or they're getting spots that like these people work day in and day out for, because they are influencers or whatever. That really annoys me. But it's harmless. And putting him, I would also say putting him with Orange Cassidy and Briscoe is the perfect combination of people to put him with.
And I agree with you on that thinly veiled shot over the bow. Liked it very well, nicely placed.
Yeah.
This is the perfect place for this type of match on this card. I can't believe I'm kind of excited for it, just because the three of them together, MXM and Johnny TV, are hilarious. They really are. I admit to wanting them to steal the other belt on Ring of Honor this week.
I did too.
I was like, steal it. But the Costco boys, to me, it's fine as long as it's in small chunks,
Yeah.
It's a way to get more people on the card. It's a way to make a lot more people happy and more of a payday. So I'm for it. And we all know what it's meant for. So if I had to throw out a prediction, I'd say the Costco boys are taking this.
Oh, they're totally taking it. Yeah. But that's the beauty of a Johnny TV, is he can lose as much as you need him to. And it does nothing to change the fundamentals of his star power. Like, people like him and enjoy his presence.
How to lose, and he looks great doing it.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
John Hennigan, man, he's really funny. Like, he's just way funnier than I ever imagined. And he's become funnier as he's gotten older. And him with MXM, that's some inspired stuff. There was a post-show promo that MXM and Johnny TV cut, and it was online. I'm not sure if everybody's seen it, but MXM comes to Johnny to introduce him to somebody who's a big fan. Is this Canadian wrestler named Taya Valkyrie, and she shows up, and they immediately start making out, and one of them goes, I hate to say it, but I think this Taya might be kind of a floozy. And then the camera pans away from Johnny and Taya making out, just to MXM, who cut this promo. And it's so funny. It's just really, really funny.
I'm gonna have to go check that out.
You gotta check it out. It's funny. It's just really great stuff. Really great stuff. So that's the pre-show. I agree with you. I think Big Boom, OC, and Mark Briscoe are definitely taking this one. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's just going to be a lot of fun. Plus, you also have to consider more people are going to watch the pre-show than will watch the actual pay-per-view. And if you're trying to get casual fans to tune in, put an influencer they know on the show, right? That's the place to do it. Yeah.
I'm going to watch what's free. Come on.
Yeah, come on. So now we're moving into the main card. There are no sleepers there are no like boring matches in this entire thing, or matches like low energy matches, okay? Even there's one that has very little build that I'm still very excited for. So let's start with William Billiam Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage. Holy shit, Antoine. What the fuck, Antoine? What the fuck?
It's going to be a fucking masterpiece.
Yes. The build for this has been very good. The build for this whole show has been so much better than any pay-per-view build I can really remember for AEW. They knew where they were going with absolutely everything way in advance. And so they've planned it.
I agree.
They planned it a lot better. And, Ospreay and Fletcher have had 2 matches on pay-per-view already. You got to up the stakes. So a steel cage, but you put these 2 maniacs, Will Ospreay in a cage, terrifying and awesome.
And the absolute amazing way that they have kept them still on path towards each other, even though they're using them in sub angle over here, or right. Kyle Fletcher is over here, interacting with his former tag team partner and building his angle and supplementing that portion of the show.
Right.
And so even when they haven't had those interactions, like, I've still been wanting to dig this match and see this for a while. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they keep them apart after a while after this.
Yeah. I think 3 matches is enough. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice little sample size, especially when you want to fight your friend. We all do eventually. Right.
Yeah. Right. You and me are going to have a match at some point. I mean, you're going to kill me, but we're going to do it no matter what. But I think, this feud has succeeded in elevating Kyle Fletcher so much.
Mm-hmm.
This guy now looks like a future world champion. At the beginning of this feud, he was Will Ospreay's little buddy.
And one of the biggest complaints that have followed Will through promotion after promotion is the fact, does he sell enough? Or does he work well enough with others when he's not in it for himself? Is he only in it for himself to look good? And he's proven that to be an absolute no.
Yeah, that's
not here in AEW, at least. We can say that about his work here in AEW. And he has made Fletcher a bona fide star. Fletcher has put work into that himself. But I predict that because of that, Kyle Fletcher is the one. There's going to be some shenanigans. There cannot help but be some shenanigans. I'm calling shenanigans early. But Kyle Fletcher is going to beat Will Ospreay.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to go with Ospreay because I think he has lost a lot, and he's got to be booked strong from this point forward, because I feel like they've done the kind of character building losses for him enough. And Will is good enough to lose and it not affect him too much. But man, I just assume they want him going at the world title sooner or later. And, okay. So we're already feeling a little different, and I like it. I like it a lot, because Kyle Fletcher, look, he could win. It's absolutely possible. And Imagine 6 months ago saying that. It would have seemed laughable. I was in the building when Fletcher turned on Ospreay in that triple threat at Wrestle Dream.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was only at the end, in the middle of October. And it's only, the beginning of March now, and Kyle Fletcher looks like a future world champion. He won his bracket in the Continental Classic. I mean, I really think this guy is just headed up and up and up. So and you're right,
is bright for him.
Yes. Well, and they're doing these little things like you pointed out with Mark Davis, where like Fletcher's now like doesn't view him as an equal anymore. He's like his boss, which you kind of saw on Dynamite this week, where Fletcher is very much just like evil. And
just that proves his versatility and the fact that he can do multiple things at one time. I love the little things like that.
Yeah, me too. No, you're so right. It's going to be a great match. It's going to be super fun. I feel bad if they do this first, because they've done cage matches first on the show before. Good luck, everybody. Fuck.
Good luck following that.
Yeah. No, it's the pace is going to be so high all night. The next match that just was announced this week, and we have some friends attending this show, some fellow sickos attending this show. My co-host, Brett Michelle, will be live in attendance. Shane Ethos, shout out to Shane, will be in attendance. Bo, some other folks will be there.
Shout out, Rip us well.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm jealous of all of you, and I hate you because you're going to this incredible show.
Have fun.
Maybe the match with the least build and the least excitement is Kazuchika Okada versus Brody King. Good God.
I'm so intrigued by this match more than almost any other on this card because of the fact that it doesn't take a lot of verbal confrontations and endless backstage segments to really get to the point with a professional and golden champion of all wrestling like Kazuchika Okada and a beast like Brody King.
Yep.
And this short build was very minuscule, very short, very quiet. All it took was a couple of face downs and an attack.
Yep. And then you're going to see these two standing across from each other.
A match I never thought I knew I needed in my life. But now I need it.
Tony Khan is the master of that. He is the master of giving you a match you didn't even think of, that you hadn't even had time to think of. That's like a dream match. That's just, there's so many potential dream matches in AEW. Like even fucking Buddy Matthews versus Okada. That's another match that I didn't even know. I had never thought of that match before it happened. And here we are. It's happened, and now Brody's doing it. I think it's going to be a great match. I do think Okada's coming out on top in this one. I think Okada and Kenny are destined to fight it all in. And I think until then, they're going to keep Okada very strong.
I tend to agree as well. It's nice to see what they've done with the Hounds of Hell since a certain former leader left.
Right.
Since Malachi Black left.
Right.
And I wish him well.
Yep.
And I do like the continued renewed push that they have gotten, particularly with Brody King, who is primed to break out as a single star and have a belt on him. But I just don't think the belt is going to be the Continental Championship.
No.
Kazuchika Okada, he's put his stamp on. If anybody has put a stamp on a title more than anyone in AEW as of right now, I would say he has put his stamp on that title more than anyone else.
Oh, yeah.
For any other title.
He's held it now for a year, basically.
Year plus.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of can King be ready? And with all I'm looking forward to All In, that's all I want to see one more time.
Hell yeah.
Side note, if you have not watched their trilogy in New Japan, please go download the app or go find it online. It is a trilogy you have to see.
Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada reignited a love for a different kind of pro wrestling in America as well as Japan. Their last match, the best 2 out of 3 falls match, 75 minutes long, is the greatest match of all time, in my opinion. It's my favorite match of all time. It's a masterpiece.
I watched it and then watched it again right after it was over. I was so amazed.
Yeah. I remember trying to stay up for that match, and I fell asleep, and I woke up, and I almost wanted to see who won, and I was like, no, don't go check the spoilers. Watch it. And I'm so glad I did, because the minute where Omega wins that title is such a rush because of everything they go through in that match. It's a titanic struggle. It's amazing. It's a masterpiece. And Omega physically is like, and Okada, both are like in the best shape they could ever get in. They're young enough, and they're just absolutely not an ounce of fat on either one of them. They're just incredible. So
they have been teasing it too long, and we all know the most. If there's almost anything I could say, I wait for the most, but I'm being patient about is until Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada have to wrestle each other. Have to underline that. Have to.
Yep. No, I think, what I'm seeing from Tony too this year is he learned, I think, from the downs of having certain wrestlers under contract that then get injured and not doing the big matches when you can. I think, like it's a crime that Danielson and Kenny wrestled once, that they should have had a storied rivalry, but injuries, you know what I mean? So it's like, you gotta go with the big matches when you can. And I see Tony doing that. This card is a great example because the next match that we're talking about is MJF versus Hangman Page. Holy crap-oli. This has really turned into a fun feud that I'm very, very dialed into. Max is doing the best work he's done since Better Than You, baby. Like, this is incredible.
Holy crap, Oli is right, because I look at it from a different perspective. I actually had reservations about how this build was going to go when it became clear that they were going to pair them together.
Right.
Because I like the subtle hints, but I was like, okay, when it becomes a reality, how is this going to work? And they have done such a marvelous dance around each other, and it's gotten more fierce and aggressive. And I agree, it might be better than You, Baby. He has needed more of a focus on an individual. It's been a while since you focused on an individual, since probably maybe the CM Punk days.
Well, and he's got this vendetta against Hangman, kind of like he had against Punk for the same reasons, where it's like, I got to take you down in order to be considered the greatest this company has ever produced, right? Like, I've got to take Hangman down in order for that to be the case, just like he had to take down Punk in order to be, kill his hero so he could take his mantle almost. And this storyline that they've done, where MJF's pointing out the hypocrisy of the fans, the fans choose who can be redeemed, and they picked you and not me, because MJF has shown that it's in his head that these fans turned on him, right? And
right.
And yet Hangman's burning somebody's fucking house to the ground and acting like a fucking maniac, retiring Christopher Daniels.
Still upset about that act.
I loved when he poured the gasoline on Hangman this week, and they come out to get him, and he's like, let me prove my point. Let me prove my point. Because he wants to light him on fire and show, you're going to cheer for this guy instead of me. No matter,
Unhinged.
even though we both lit something on fire, you know?
The pot calling the kettle black. Unhinged.
100%.
And he has been right, begrudgingly so.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, I had not only have I enjoyed the anticipation of this match and the fact that it's not for a title, it's not for anything other than pride and I'm better than you. That's as simple as it is. I'm just better than you. And I think in the upset, this is when I had the biggest toss up on. I think in an upset, MJF takes this first match.
I think you're right.
Notice I said first.
Yes. No, I 100%. I'm with you all the way. I think this is the first match. They're definitely going to be more. You got to do more now. Like, look how molten the audiences are when these guys are in the ring together.
I wouldn't mind seeing another one right after this. They could wrestle the very next night. All right, guys, go wrestle again.
Totally. But this is just a straight up match. It's not a Texas death match. It's not any special stipulation. MJF can use the rules against Hangman and cheat and win. I think MJF kind of has to win. His character needs it. And, but I don't think they're done by a long shot after this match. I do think when I really map it out, it really could go either way. But I think MJF's going to take it. I think he is. Because it just feels like, yeah, exactly what you said. This is the first of a series, I think. And I think MJF, you know, in order for there to even be a reason to have another match, you got to have the heel win.
Exactly. I totally agree. If I don't want to call it a debacle, maybe the drawn out sort of verbal feud with Jeff Jarrett kind of took a lot of steam out of his sails.
It did.
And MJF, when you really think about it, needs this more than Hangman does to really stay as high up in the card in the fans' eyes as Hangman always does. No matter what he does, burns down Swerve's house. You know, some of us are upset with some of us are upset about that, Hangman. Sorry, you're gonna have to pay for that eventually. So we're gonna come see you. But what it boils down to is MJF has to win this match. I think you said it perfectly.
Yeah, he does. And I think you're right. This is what we call a pivot, okay? They saw how disastrous this Jarrett MJF thing was. Jarrett's not even on fucking TV now. Like, he's not even on goddamn TV. He's gone.
No.
Like, this is how you pivot. You put MJF in something hugely consequential that, who, for all we know, this was going to be the match at All In. And they were like, nope, move it up. We gotta heat both these guys even higher. And what great opponents. They are the polar opposite of each other. And I love it. I love it. I love that Hangman still comes out of the heel tunnel and he doesn't even totally act like a baby face.
And he knows it too. He's self-aware.
No, that's that promo battle they had a few weeks ago where he's like, I probably lied 100 times in AEW, but I've never lied to them. And like, he took on this stone cold baby face kind of vibe right there. What I love about Swerve and Hangman is they started in very different places. Swerve was the heel. Hangman was the aw shucks baby face. They both destroyed each other. And now they are kind of the same guy.
Look at them now.
Yeah, they're both like morally ambiguous baby faces that are badasses the crowd loves.
Agreed.
It paid off so well for both. But moving on, we got a match that I have some strong theories about. I don't know if you'll like my theory, Antoine, but got some theories. It's the Hurt Syndicate defending the tag titles against the Outrunners. What do you think of this, Antoine?
Well, what I think about this is I've actually had a week to ponder actually this particular subject. I did actually create a post about it. I made my feelings known. Some things were said that seemed to take into, maybe if they were said, they made it seem like the Outrunners were going to beat the Hurt Syndicate at this pay-per-view, which I vehemently stand against and deny. May I address the individual who said those comments?
Of course.
Please back up those unfounded comments, because I see absolutely no way. I am very glad for the Outrunners. I love the 80s. Let's keep bringing it back. However, very protective of the Hurt Syndicate. I think they're on a roll right now. I think you need to have the tag team titles really, truly mean something. The Bucks had to leave AEW to go get the IWGP tag titles because they wanted to hold titles that felt important.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have very well done that here. But then that you're seeing the same thing all over again. Not to meander. However, this match I clearly see as a victory for the Hurt Syndicate. Please continue. Go ahead. I just want to say my piece. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I have clearly created some kind of discourse here. Okay. So I have a theory that the Hurt Syndicate fucked over the Murder Machines when they were facing the Outrunners, right? Presumably, it's basically the Max and Jeff Jarrett story, but with different people. They wanted the Outrunners to win because they thought they'd be easy pickings, right? So they screwed over the Murder Machines. The Murder Machines got to get some kind of revenge, right? What would be funnier, what would be better for your rival than to screw over the Hurt Syndicate in return, also involving the Outrunners? The Outrunners become are they a fluke or are they not, tag team champions?
Uh-huh.
The Hurt Syndicate starts feuding with the Callis family. And maybe Cedric Alexander shows up. But the Hurt Syndicate start to turn babyface because they are fucking undeniable as babyfaces, okay? Bobby doesn't take the pin. Shelton takes the pin. He's the pin guy right now, which is insane. And then the Outrunners are these underdog tag champs that everybody expects to lose the belts almost immediately. All the tag teams start lining up to face these guys, and they keep going, we'll take you on, whatever. Rah! And they surprise a bunch of people, and they hold on to the tag belts for a little while before they drop them to somebody like maybe the Hounds of Hell, maybe the Murder Machines, maybe back to the Hurt Syndicate. That's what I think would be a very compelling story and get the Outrunners that legitimacy. And then when they drop the tag belts, they kind of never need to win them again, And the Hurt Syndicate can win them back anytime.
That's true.
But Lashley and Shelty just don't strike me as dudes who should be tag champs for a super long time. They are monsters, okay? They kill. That's what they do. They don't hurt people, they kill people. And I think there's so much potential for them outside of the tag thing. But feuding with the Callis family, that seems like that could be super interesting.
I can see that as an eventual stopping point, especially feuding with the Callis family. That would raise their profile. That would also give Bobby Lashley a chance to go after the international championship if they decide to take it off to Konosuke Takeshita, which we'll discuss later.
Yeah.
It could give Shelton something to really do with a great young talent like Kyle Fletcher. I could imagine a series of matches that they could have together.
Right.
I kind of agree with you. That is a plausible enough through line that would be excellent. And then they would continue to hold those titles because, why not just milk a good thing to death? And then eventually it becomes stale. So I think the smart thing and the smart play here is to do the right thing, as Spike Lee once said, and keep the titles on the Hurt Business. They are going to be the greatest thing for the tag title division. I do believe because of the type of they're going to turn face as they continue to be champions. It's naturally happening.
It's happening
right now.
as it is. Yeah, It's happening as it is. I think that the Outrunners don't need to win. Certainly they don't. They're almost better as lovable losers. You know, like, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way whatsoever, okay? I mean this as a compliment. They're like the bushwhackers of AEW. They can lose and lose and lose, and they're still extremely over and entertaining. People still want to see them, no matter what.
That is a compliment.
It is.
Great.
They have one of the funniest gimmicks ever. They're great promos, which is they're extremely smart dudes who pretend to be stupid dudes who are self-aware of how stupid they are in a way. And I love the Outrunners, man. I don't care if they ever win. It doesn't really matter to me. But the hanging thread in all of this is the murder machines. They're going to want revenge. How do they get revenge?
I didn't see coming in any way, shape, or form. So how do you tie that back into the main story? If the Hurt Syndicate wins, how do you get them back into that main story?
Well,
I'm thinking about this real time.
Right. So I think you would have them attack them on Dynamite probably, or after the match maybe. Because, you know, the Hurt Syndicate, they're like hard-ass, edgy heels. They're not going to be squeaky clean baby faces. Nobody wants that, right? MVP's such a great talker. Lashley's so imposing. Shelton Benjamin's such a fucking star in that ring. That's all they need to be, right?
What they are is all they need to be.
Right. You don't need to turn them super hard. So, you know, it seemed like for a while they were building up to a Ricochet entering the Hurt Syndicate kind of thing. And now they seem to be getting away from that.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to that. That would have been interesting.
I don't know. I feel like we'll get into it. But we've literally only covered half this card. Let's hit the music. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Okay, let's get to some women's action, shall we? How excited are you to see Momo Watanabe on an AEW pay-per-view?
Oh, I am so excited. Let me tell you. Stardom is one of my favorite wrestling promotions to watch, period. And it's really nice to see the transition that she has made from her heel faction of hate in Stardom over to make sort of a kind of like a face turn here in AEW. I like to refer to it as like the Godzilla effect almost. Godzilla is the hero in Japan, and King Kong is the, you switch and you become the face. So kind of like a vice versa situation. But I think it's fantastic. It does a lot to expose more people to Stardom and give exposure to her as a wrestler. And that was the entire point of the Boss's title reign, I think, and mission statements since she has left WWE.
Right. No, and I think there's another thread here, friend, that I think is a common factor that only seems to be becoming more common. How did Momo get this title shot? She pinned Athena in Japan after hitting her in the face with a baseball bat, right? Knocked her out. She had her choice. She could have chosen the CMLL title, She could have chosen the Ring of Honor title. She could have chosen the AEW Women's World title. And she chose the TBS title. Who does Mercedes bump into in the back? Billy Starks. Who's Billy Starks? The minion of Athena. Does it not make sense? Does it, just food for thought, does it not make sense that Athena might be engineering some of this?
Breadcrumbs.
Yeah, I think we're dropping some breadcrumbs. I think we might be building towards Momo losing to Mercedes, maybe due to the shenanigans of one Athena to get revenge on Momo for fucking her over, right? And that starts a war between Mercedes and Athena and gives us what, aside from Tony and Mariah, is essentially the biggest women's match they could make, right?
And also gives us what a lot of us have been powering for, which is more Athena on TV.
Absolutely. And this is how you get the Fallen Goddess into AEW.
I don't know if that will come to fruition. Me
neither.
But I know I want it to.
That's where I want it to go.
Every last little bit of it. I want to eat it up. You know, I do believe that Momo Watanabe will lose here. And Mercedes will retain. And it gives her the exposure she needs. And they're going to use that as some sort of springboard. It's too obvious.
It's just a fucking bright neon sign screaming at you like, Athena and Mercedes. Like, this is where it's going.
Or you're just fucking with us. One of the two.
Don't fuck with us. Don't be fucking with us. This is too good. You know, Joshi has advocated that they need to fight it all in, okay? Which would be awesome. I don't know if they can get that far with this, okay? Because that's like 5 months from now. Or 4 months from now. But it's in Athena's hometown, essentially. All in. Like, the 2.5-year-long reigning ROH champion versus the undefeated TBS champion. Like, that's like, that could headline. Like, if you did it right. You know what I mean? So
that could headline any show, AEW or Ring of Honor, and it could be for all the titles. It would be, I disagree on one little point. I don't think it'll be that hard to keep it going, to keep them busy for another 5 months. CMLL is going to be around a little bit longer, so I think they'll be busy. They have plenty of challengers that can pick and choose for Mercedes. That would be my wish.
Yeah, Mercedes could run through Billy and could run through Diamante and run through these other people while she's building her way to Athena. I just think it makes too much sense because that's going to be, that match happening is huge. And I think you give it to Athena, have her beat Mercedes, have her be the one to beat Mercedes. That would be amazing because Athena's earned it, man. She's like in ring. Athena does everything well, everything. So I can't wait. But they are clearly building towards Mercedes and Athena. Don't be fucking with us, Tony, because that's going to make you a bunch of money, dude. That's a money match right there, is Athena versus Mercedes. So that's where I think we're going. I agree with you. Mercedes is winning this one, either cleanly with maybe some post-match shenanigans or some shenanigans that lead her to beat Momo. Who knows? The next match, and this, you know, we kind of touched on this for just a second earlier. Who's going to be the number one contender to the AEW World title? Is it going to be Ricochet, Dickochet, Prickochet, Trevor? Is it going to be Swerve? These two have been fire together. This feud has been so cool and so fun. This week on Dynamite, when Trev tried to pull the scissors out and attack Swerve from behind, and Swerve pulled a pair of scissors out of his own pocket and turned around and stabbed Trevor in the head, was so dope.
I'm sorry. This feud has been, you are so right. This feud has been the most fun of any of the feuds out there.
Yeah.
it's been very serious, but fun at the same time. Trevor has done such an excellent job of acquitting himself and making himself such a detestable person. And while also making himself a part of the upper echelon of the AEW hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And I really can't stand when he wears a ball cap with a suit. I mean, it's just classless. He has that punchable face, you know. I really think about Step Brothers. And, you know, when the guy said that, you just have that face, pow. I just want to pow. You know, that's Trevor. But, you know, my man Swerve, he's sort of taking the approach of, well, I've had enough from you now. You know, little brother, little boy, you know, he kind of looks down on him a little bit. The little pest that's always around. So the build has been so amazing, and I loved him trying to pull out the scissors and get stabbed last night. There is always room for a good scissors stabbing on a Wednesday evening.
Hey, AEW crimes, baby. It's a big part of our enjoyment. Yeah. There's like either a major or minor felony committed on every episode, and I support it. I support it. I think their new theme music should be the Cops theme music, like Bad Boys, Bad Boys.
Bring it back.
Yeah, because there's just crime happening in AEW. Every chance there's every opportunity for crime, there's crime. Who do we got here? I have a theory. Another one.
Oh, I'm going to get in here really quickly because I do not have a theory. I think this leads directly to what is deserved, which is Swerve is getting pushed back up the card. Yeah. And I do think Ricochet loses here. And Swerve will become the number one contender. But I think that it will lead to other things down the line where who Swerve faces that number one contendership in his pocket is not going to be potentially who is holding the title right now.
Yeah. So that's what it all comes down to, ain't it? Is whoever wins here faces the champ. If Moxley's the champ, what sense does it have for Ricochet to face him, right? But Moxley and Swerve, you put that at the top of a pay-per-view, that's a money match, okay?
They've had their issues in the past, and Swerve is the name that Moxley had mentioned when he first came in as some of the people that he always wanted to work with, and they worked well in the Continental Classic together.
They did. They were really good in the Continental Classic, and Mox got the only win over Swerve, too. What I would say is, did you find it interesting that Swerve kind of mentioned Samantha Irvin just a little bit in his promo this last week?
Just a tiny bit, you know. She's kind of been pretty clear about her intentions, but still throwing her name out there is still pretty interesting. It's not keeping it quiet.
She's like, I got other things I'm doing, but I'm not done with wrestling, but I don't want to be a ring announcer. Do you think maybe she starts to manage Ricochet?
Made a point to point out that she's not done with wrestling. But she's done as a ring announcer, but she's not done with wrestling.
Right.
Power is in the words.
She's coming to AEW at some point. And her and Ricochet being annoying fucking heels together would be the best. Like the best. Make it happen. Please. I do think Swerve's going to win. I thought, you know, Tony doesn't do a lot of interference, and I've already predicted a lot of interference for this card. So I think Swerve will win this one. And I think there's a money match down the road with Moxley, Cope, or maybe Jay White, or maybe Christian Cage. I think they're all possibilities that we will get into at the end of this, just so you know, people. We're building slowly towards what we know is going to be the main event. Holy shit. Did you see the footage from the premiere of Queen of the Ring?
I thought it was a mess. I thought it was amazing. I really did.
What the fuck? How do they keep doing this, Antoine? How? How? How?
Home run. Home run.
This is one of the greatest stories in the history of pro wrestling. It doesn't matter what gender. It doesn't matter at all. It's as good as anything I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the weirdest stories ever told as far as the characters involved. And yet it's pitch perfect at every turn. Now it's Mariah May's turn to take a wild swing in her character and be an unhinged maniac. And she's crushing it. My God.
It fits her sensibility so well. I am enamored, you could say, with Mariah May. And just listening to Tony's reactions on the wonderful red carpet. It's been a while since I've seen a really good wrestling angle on the red carpet.
Yep.
There have been some.
Yep. Doesn't
mean they've been good, but this was just amazing. Every moment of this build, every match. I do admit that I earlier did say that I hope that they take a break away from them and save this match for a little bit later down the road. Give it time for Mariah's character to really take steam on her becoming unhinged. But my heart says Mariah, but my head says, yeah, it's going to be Tony's night.
This could go either way. I think the more realistic possibility is that Tony's going to win. However, them introducing a falls count anywhere, no DQ component to this makes me think. Remember, there's a person that came back who had been out injured for a long time, and she said that she was going to get revenge on the people who injured her. And it came out this week that she's having visa issues, and that's why she hasn't been on AEW TV for a while. And one of those people who injured her, who took the title from her, was Toni Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any possibility that Jamie Hayter might make her presence known and cost Tony the title, and they go into a feud from here?
I think that is absolutely a wonderful possibility.
Mm-hmm. Tony had her prestige title reign where she was champion for almost a year. She doesn't need that anymore. She could have a short reign. It doesn't matter. Like, her legacy is set, you know?
She has almost a, for lack of a better wrestler, Undertaker sort of legacy.
Yeah.
Very short reigns, but it's not the length of the reign that's very important. It's the situation in the build and the actual act of her winning. Mm-hmm. And just seeing how she portrays that title for that short period of time. That's what elevates Tony to a level I think that is unseen or rarely ever reached, and definitely not ever reached outside of Connecticut, unfortunately, on such a wide, big stage. And Mariah also is taking so well advantage of it that it has really been to really bring her stardom style over to it has just blown a lot of people away. But if you had watched Stardom, you probably saw it coming. But these two ladies have gone into a different stratosphere.
Yeah, look, first things first, everybody loves Toni Storm now. Everybody loves Toni Storm. Why wouldn't you, right? Like, she has certainly made her own way, but I do feel it's really important. Without Mariah May, Timeless Toni Storm is way less interesting.
Exactly.
And Mariah has been so unselfish in the way that she's gone about this, where she never goes into business for herself at all. She plays exactly the role that logically makes sense for her to play. Instead of trying to be cool, she's like a maniac who's completely unhinged and jealous and desperate. You know, the way they started that sit-down interview off, she literally starts it off by spitting in Tony's face. Like, she's acting like an unhinged redneck right now. It's awesome. And
then 2 minutes later, professing her love. And
right.
It's the most unhinged, wonderful thing I've ever seen on TV.
It's fantastic. These guys should be up for Emmys. I don't know. Like, this is really, really good shit. And after this feud, like, fuck, it's like, is pro wrestling peaked? Because this is about as good as this shit gets. Like, the drama, the soap opera, the matches have been stellar. Like, that match in Australia was fantastic. So yeah, I just can't say enough good things about it. I was exactly where you were at, where I wanted them to take some space and spread the love. But what I would say is the AEW women's division currently does kind of revolve around Mercedes, Harley, Mariah, and Tony. And if Mariah and Tony split up, they can share that attention with some new people and finally kind of like wrap up their feud with each other so that they can share the character growth and gains that they've made with that.
Share the wealth, share the spotlight.
100%. So that people like Deanna, so that people like Jamie, so that people like, other people can start to reap the rewards of the stars they've built, Next match, Jesus Christ. International title. Konosuke Takeshita defends the international title against the greatest big match wrestler in the history of wrestling, in my opinion, Kenny Omega. Just tell me straight up who you got.
Well, you have Konosuke versus the old man. That's for you, Josie, and for a couple of you other Kenny Omega fans out there. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
That's good stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Old man Omega.
Old man Omega is who I have in this match, and it pains me to say it because Takeshita is on such a roll, but I believe that his involvement with New Japan is so important right now. And with the New Japan Cup upcoming, I'm doing a little foreshadowing, and I think this is going to be the match of excellent wrestling excellence on the card that is going to happen. But Kenny Omega is going to win this match. I believe it's too soon to take the bloom off the rose, so to speak.
I agree with you 100%. I think Kenny is going to win this match. I think him and Okada are going to fight to unify the Continental and International titles at All In. I think that's where this is going. Because I think the Continental title doesn't really make a lot of sense as a belt that gets defended. It's like, you won this tournament, give them something tangible. Like, you get the world title shot at Revolution. You get, whatever. But, like, it kind of doesn't make sense to have won that entire grueling-ass tournament and then lose the belt in a single match, like, later. That's just my personal opinion. However,
I can see it.
They teased Okada and Takeshita months ago, and they did nothing with it.
They did.
Yeah, and I really want to see that match too. But I think Kenny's taken this one. There's a lot of ways it could go. Because Kenny, if he loses, they could do that. Like, am I too old? Do I still have it? Like Kenny kind of foreshadowed that in his promo on Dynamite, which, by the way, Kenny's promos are better than they've ever been now.
Have been excellent ever since he came back.
He's been leaning into being the number one baby face and just like that stratospheric baby face. And it's so good.
I like when Kenny Omega is self-aware, not arrogant, but self-aware of his importance to the moment and to the company, to the industry, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he takes it earnestly. And this is the Kenny Omega that's going to help lead AEW into its unknown future.
Yes. I do want to see Omega get one more title run. at some point. It doesn't need to be a super long run. But Kenny on top with that belt one more time as a babyface, being the face of AEW for a little while would be a lot of fun. He doesn't need to. But I want him to win the international title, and I think he will. Takeshita, yeah, I think you're right. I think he's got stuff to do in New Japan. There's a reason he signed a 1-year deal with them. I think this summer he might actually be the IWGP champion for a little while. He can make a credible claim to Goto that, because Goto beat him in the G1, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So, in my opinion, last year during the G1, and I think this has changed a little bit, so I'm not sticking by this. I think Takeshita kind of outshined everybody in the G1 last year.
And I think they're going to use that as the jumping ground for continuing his shine. The crowd loves him. And he doesn't need to be a champion. He's gotten the credibility from the international title that he can get. It's not like he's going to get more by holding on to it longer, right? Right.
But I think he's ahead of Shooter, and he's ahead of even Yota Tsuji, who I will say has become much better since last year's G1. I thought last year Takeshita kind of embarrassed both of those guys. Because his aura was so much bigger than them. He just looked like, it's like comparing Stone Cold Steve Austin to Iron Mike Sharp. They looked like they were on different planets, like.
He really did expose the amount of work that they needed to do internally.
Then Yota Tsuji, I see him at Wrestle Kingdom, and he looked amazing. Like, he had come so far. That match with David Finlay was awesome. And he has really, really upped his value. That match with Gabe Kidd recently was incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah. So I'm seeing it from Yota. I'm seeing it. Interesting to see where Shooter goes from here. I think an AEW excursion, honestly, might do him some good, but we'll see. But I got Kenny Omega taking it off Takeshita, and Takeshita spending the summer in Japan.
And one little side note before we continue. I think Takeshita and what he has done with the AEW International title, because you mentioned he's taken it as far as he can go. I think he took the AEW International title as far as it can go, with the way that he defended in so many different places, so many different shows. Kenny Omega is the type of person that carry on that type of lineage, what I 100%. Feel like the international title was meant to be. So it's a natural progression that helps to close a loop on a story that's been going on for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And I have to totally agree with that, because I think my problem when Orange had it is, he has all these successful defenses of it, which is great, but it's called the international title. Like, you're only defending it in AEW. Like, go defend it across the world. And Takeshita's the first one who's really been able to do that. And I love it. And Kenny will do it too. Kenny will do it. So, Kenny will go wrestle in Mexico. He'll go wrestle in Japan. He'll go to, Takeshita. And on top of it all, what's lost in the sauce sometimes is Takeshita has 3 wrestling contracts. He wrestles for 3 wrestling companies at the same time.
My man needs a break.
He needs the IWGP heavyweight title is what he needs. And when they take that belt off him, whoever does it, Yota Tsuji probably, then they get the rub. Then they get the big rub. Because beating Goto, let Takeshita beat Goto. You know what I mean?
See, you're making me dream a little too much about all the possibilities.
I know.
So,
but they're right there. They're right there.
I reserve the right to judge.
Okay. Well, judge away, because the jury is in, and the main event appears to be Jon Moxley versus Adam Copeland. I think this story has really injected some enthusiasm into the Death Riders. I think Copeland has been a good influence on them because the story has moved forward for the first time in a long time. I didn't really. I just read something today where he was talking to Sports Illustrated and said he didn't really get the story either, and that he's been trying to make it a little easier to follow during his time in this feud. There are a lot of people with a lot of wild ideas about what's going to happen in this match, but the thing Copeland deserves a lot of credit for is advancing this story in a logical way that's made the Death Riders a lot more fun.
And helped it to refocus because it meandered for so long. Like, the trios titles had no importance to me. Mox's motivations were kind of convoluted. I think they helped each other because what it did was to help Mox's character, who's kind of a paranoid, he's just a paranoid lunatic, just a teeny bit.
Yeah, just a bit.
It's shown it's given him range to his character to see how he treats the others, how Wheeler Yuta especially. Like, Wheeler Yuta's character probably advanced more in the past, 3 months than it's been advanced in the past 6.
Right.
So sometimes groups like that need just a simple, direct direction. And I admit to having my reservations on is a 50-year-old Adam Cope going through a midlife crisis. Copeland really the direction you want to go, and it's worked out in spades.
It really has. I think that, quite honestly, I've said it on the show before. I was not watching when Copeland was at the height of his main event run in WWE. I had tuned out of wrestling for a while during the Reign of Terror with Triple H on Raw, and just wasn't that interested in the product. And so I tuned out, came back in 2013. He was retired already. He has been a revelation in AEW. I think you really see that this guy had a lot more to give to the business, and he has since he's been in AEW. And he's lived up to his reputation in a massive way. I was always a bigger Christian fan. Still am. Okay.
Still am. I co-sign that.
But Copeland's been great. He's been very, very good. I was also live in the arena when he debuted at WrestleDream, the first one. And when he came out, I don't even like that fucking butt rock fucking song he comes out to, but Jesus Christ, I popped like a maniac because the intensity in the building was insane. So what do we think's happening here, Antoine? Because I've seen a lot.
Oh my goodness. And
I've
you know
seen
what?
A lot of theories.
A lot. And like, for me, none of them are out of the realm of impossibility. Right. There are so many different ways that you can go with this match because of the way that it could end up affecting it. From Jay White saying that he's going to be there to the fact that there's not going to be any of his cohorts there unless Wheeler Yuta shows up and then decides to throw a wrench into it. So there are people on both sides, I think, who can affect this in so many different ways. I sense you mentioned shenanigans throughout, but there are shenanigans going to be here. I'm adding to the shenanigans.
Yeah. It's a shenanigan kind of night, I think.
Mm-hmm. But I think good shenanigans. Sometimes shenanigans are good.
Oh, I think so.
Mm-hmm. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I really can't. And it's not because of his talent, but I do believe Cope becomes the AEW World Champion because I do believe it leads to Jay White, who Jay White is one of the greatest snakes of all time. And he has unresolved issues with who? Swerve Strickland.
And Swerve. That's true.
And Christian. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I find this that's a very interesting theory. So let's talk a little bit about what I've heard, okay? The theories going around. Jay's going to turn on Cope. That's a very popular theory. That's a theory that I find very plausible, okay? Like, literally the minute that Jay said he was going to be there, the chat that I was in just exploded with people going like, oh, here we go. Jay's going to turn on him, you know? Because he is Jay White in full-blown justified shithead heel mode is the greatest heel in the business. Full stop.
AEW has not had a chance to see that yet.
Nope.
And I believe now is the time for them to see it.
I agree. So you have the possibility of Cope costing Copeland the match. You have the possibility of Cope winning the match. Christian trying to cash in. They have revealed that you have to sign the contract before you can cash in. So I saw somebody theorize that Christian tries to cash in on a newly won Copeland. And Jay White takes him out, signs it, and then he takes out Copeland. Not my favorite way for Jay White to win a world title. I don't really like this whole briefcase thing to begin with. Okay, the Money in the Bank thing has so played out. Like I don't like that concept at all.
Two on the nose.
Yeah, but I'm seeing that said. I'm seeing people say Christian cashes in and beats Copeland. But I did make note of something, which is, to your point, Copeland destroyed everybody but Wheeler Yuta, right? And Yuta and Jay White have been like kind of having this little side feud that's not like full blown, you know, because they're both involved in this bigger thing. But, you know, they're always kind of in each other's face and digging at each other and stuff. Does Yuta get the best of Jay White and shows that Copeland's sign of mercy, which he showed to nobody else except Yuta when he said, this is respect. This is what respect looks like. That crowd was chanting for Wheeler after he shook Copeland's hand.
Yes, they were.
Is Wheeler the red herring who maybe he's gonna help Copeland, but he actually turns on Copeland and still screws him over? And Moxley retains. I'm going to say I think Moxley retains here, not because...
Shocker of the episode.
Yeah. I think Moxley's going to retain because I just feel like this Death Riders thing has more juice in it.
Where's your producing? That absolutely needed some lightning with some great special effects.
Yeah, I know. I should have. I don't have the little button here. But yeah, no, I think that I think Moxley's going to retain. I don't think Cope needs to be the world champion. The only really like way I can see them justifying this briefcase thing though would be Jay White stealing it from Christian. I don't really want to see Christian or Cope as the AEW champion, to be honest. I think it reinforces a narrative that nobody needs, which is old people on top of AEW.
May I comment on that? I absolutely agree with it, which is why I was against the idea of putting Cope in that position.
Me too.
But and it feels like we're in agreement on one thing. One thing's going to happen. Moxley's going to lose that night. How it happens, it feels like is up to debate. It can go a million different ways.
See, I'm predicting he wins. I'm predicting Mox wins somehow by Jay White turning on Cope, by Wheeler turning on Cope. The other X factor, FTR, turning on Cope and joining the Death Riders. What do you do with the Death Riders? Because if Mox drops this title, it's over. That's the way I see it. There's nothing else for them to really do, right? Have they told the story they came to tell? I don't think they have. That's why I think Mox retains.
You think there is more meat that is left on this bone?
If the Death Riders are going to keep going, they need new members. And FTR joining, I've noticed a little trend with when FTR does interviews that are relating to the Death Riders. They always say, look, we actually agree with you guys. It's just you can't kidnap us and leave us on the side of the road kind of thing, right? But they always say, like, we agree with you. And then this past week on Collision, when they wrestled Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, they could have won if they had just walked away from the match instead of telling the ref that his foot was on the rope, right? But instead, they tell him that his foot is on the rope. Then by the end of the match, they're pulling the tights and cheating and doing all kinds of shit to try and win, and then they end up losing. And I think there's a heel turn being foreshadowed for FTR. So why not have them get them?
They could use one. They could use some freshening up. I feel like they've gotten a tad bit stale. Maybe it's just me.
I think they're incredibly stale. And I think they have been actually for a good while. I think, especially with the Bucks dried up and not doing anything, FTR is just the baby faces everybody likes. They've gotten what they can out of that. They need to do something new. And these guys are great heels. They can do a great job. So you say Mox loses. I say Mox retains. We'll see what happens. But it's going to be... Antoine, I think this is going to be one of the best shows AEW's ever done.
I think it's going to be one of the most impactful shows that AEW has ever done, because one thing that they have not gotten a lot of credit for is the fact that they have built up so many different credible challengers that how this match turns out, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about the beauty of the direction, because there's so much foreshadowing that is going to take place tonight, or on Sunday, I should say, and will set the template for the next 6 months.
100%. That's some poetry right there from my poet friend, Antione Raphael. He's going to be back in the very near future. When we do predictions, we do them with Antoine. So stay tuned, because Dynasty's next month. So we'll be doing more of this. But stay tuned as well, because Antoine has a bunch of projects up in the air. I'm excited for him. We'll be sharing more as that grows closer. Go to sickosclub.com, read our writing, listen to our podcast, go to the merch store, check it out. Look at the art that Brett Michelle and Neon Ghost are making all the time. These people are incredibly talented. Don't tell Brett I said that. But until next time, I'm Blade Daly.
And I'm Antione Raphael.
Pro wrestling forever.
For life.